2020. Somehow there was a feeling about this year. It's like we'd been building up to it. We all just sort of knew this would be a memorable year, but I don't think we expected it to be for the reasons it actually was. Okay, real quick, for those who don't know, I started a blog 4 years ago where the goal was to post my favorite albums of the year for a decade, but for 2024 I made a video, and I really liked how that turned out, so I'm going back and doing it for the prior years, and this is the first one. Alright, sorry, let's flash back again. The world was at a standstill. A global pandemic that would trigger a total cultural reset. We are still feeling the reverberations of that year to this day. But you were there. You know what it was like. The energy was just bad. People were sick. Nobody was making shit. You couldn't go anywhere. And every week it seemed like some beloved public figure died. I swear, when it kicked off with Kobe's sudden death, we should have known. Anyways, as a result of the fuckery going on, most major media that wasn't already basically finished got delayed or worse, rushed out. Looking back, this is generally the hardest year in a while to make a top anything list. So many albums sounded half-baked. Is that anyone's fault though? No, unless you were Tory Lanez maybe, but guess what? That makes the group of artists who did manage to churn out greatness all that more commendable. Just to catch inspiration during all this and make it happen is impressive. In place of honorable mentions for this year, I'd like to recognize some great EPs. A lot of musicians didn't have the capacity to do a full showing, but that shouldn't go without credit. Starting us off is Dijon's How Do You Feel About Getting Married? And man, this was a real lovey-dovey bedroom pop dream. Only a ghost of what wonders would later come in 2021 though. Then we've got Slauson Malone with Smitty something. Smitty Wergen Jagerman Jensen.
Number 1 in Boogieland!
This is a reprise of the original and groundbreaking Crater Speak album from 2019, but more stripped down, barren, and lonely. Amazing, despondent energy here, just otherworldly. Also, Kenny Beats and Denzel Curry teamed up for the very fun and fast-paced Unlocked. Definitely don't skip this one. It has an entertaining sort of storyline about both guys trying to recover some lost and corrupted files. Bangers and bars, all I can say. Can't forget about JPEG Mafia's EP! So many classics on this, like Bald or Rough 7, which I still think is extremely underrated. And last, but certainly not least, is TK Maidsa's Last Year Was Weird Volume 2. It's basically perfect as far as EPs go. I don't think you can get much better than this. All killer, no filler. I think this is one of the best musical moments of 2020 in general, and one of the greatest EPs of all time. No, I'm not kidding. There isn't a bad song on here. It's so good. Listen immediately. Here we go. Let's get started proper. With number 15, it's Phoebe Bridgers with Punisher. I know this is going to be too low on the list for a lot of you, but I can't always jive with how mellow this gets. Still, I find it being better and better with every listen I take. It's the perfect nocturnal record. I still prefer the more lively cuts, don't get me wrong. My favorite song by a mile is Kyoto, but when I'm in the mood though, the rest of this LP hits just right. It takes an extra effort for me to get into anything folk related, but I'm happy to report I'm buying into the melancholy of it all. The lyrics are weirdly dystopian, very fitting. She covered Bo Burnham's Funny Feeling a year later because it would fit right in on this track list. Number 14, the electrifying Sawayama by Rina Sawayama. This is Rina's official debut album, which is uber impressive. It's a bit of a challenge to make pop music this epic and theatrical work without it sounding cringy or contrived, but she nails it. There are elements of rock and dancing here that surprisingly mesh well. The lead single, STFU, even has a metal vibe. It's great to hear something with this much energy and creative flair. The whole release is straight from the It's Britney Bitch school of witchcraft and wizardry. It makes me want to download iTunes on Windows XP. What a splash of cold water to the face this is. Wakes me right up, man. Let's see, up next at 13 we have the Bonsai Predicament with... The Koreatown Oddity. It's the Koreatown Oddity. Little Dominique's Nosebleed. Some of the best storytelling you'll hear on an album, at least recently. This is partly due to the wild combinations of sounds, samples, skits, musical montages, and wacky production arrangements. There's a lot of sarcasm and humor in the performances, and I really love how it maintains a playful tone while our narrator reflects on some rather bleak tidbits of his early life and upbringing in Los Angeles. A great year for jazz rap, which we'll see more of later down the line on the list. This is one of the all-star contributors. Number 12 is Lianne La Havas on her self-titled album, which is super cozy. It's so tender and gentle, but somehow never bores me. There's a great emotional through line that's easy to relate to. Most of the instrumental work is very sweet and elegant, from plucky guitars, bright pianos, funky bass hits, and smooth-sounding drums. Leanne's singing is passionate and gorgeous. She even does a rendition of Radiohead's Weird Fishes that really blew me away. Anything in relation to In Rainbows is a big, fat W for me. I'd say it fits in well with the record's themes of healing or finding peace after turmoil. Overall, if you don't like this, I don't know. You might just not like music very much. I can't see how anybody wouldn't have something nice to say about such a beautiful collection of songs. Comfort album right here. Feels like a warm bowl of soup. Number 11 is Run the Jewels 4 from the absolutely legendary dynamic rap duo of Killer Mike and LP. I was worried RTJ would be confined to a trilogy because stopping anytime soon just feels like a missed opportunity. They honestly haven't had a bad drop together, and this continues to be more heat. There are booming stadium-style anthems and laid-back, club-rocking ones. You have no shortage of more conscious lyricism this time, really honing in on systemic racism, corporate corruption, and police brutality. They even dropped this a few days early in support of the widespread BLM protests happening in early June. Yeah, remember how tense that time was? This was definitely needed. The world is just a better place with RTJ coming back every few years with quality music. At number 10, we've got Alfredo from Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist, two guys who had been killing it up until this point. I don't think there was anybody who thought this would be a flop when it was announced. It's about what you'd expect from one of the best rappers and one of the best producers from this era. Outside of the opener, I wouldn't say there are too many bangers. Uncle Al's beats are crisp, vintage, and smooth. Enough to lay down on, really. This is meant to be more of a mellow listen, with Freddie kind of just giving you the lowdown on stuff. Don't know if this has the magic of the Madlib collaborations, especially as time goes by, but I'd easily take a second serving of Alfredo. Number 9, and somewhat of a fall off, originally was 4th up there, but now it's Visions of Bodies Being Burned by Clipping. This is horror movie rap. You might think, oh no, he's just saying that because of a bleak subject matter or something. No, bro, this album tries to give you the experience of a horror movie. Creepy crawlies, goblins, ghouls, maniacs on the loose, utterly heavy, distorted, eerie songs with chilling lyrical stories, and it's Halloween flavored for sure. But what's funny is you always get reminded this is still a hip-hop project. A lot of these tracks go pretty hard. The only reason for this slight drop in favor with me is that I've maybe come back to this the least out of all the titles on this list. Some others have just outshined it. I did listen to it again before making this list, and I did recall how great it is. Am I always in the mood for something like this? Probably not, but that doesn't make it any less great. Fun times with Clipping. I'm ready to be spooked again soon. Sliding on up to that 8th spot is Innocent Country 2 with Quelle Chris and Chris Keys, the Chris's. This is easily my favorite Quelle Chris release. The piano-filled instrumentals are so glossy, glittery, and silky. This is melodic flows versus even more melodic beats. Chris is somebody with so much personality, and I really love how he can dissect social issues and his own mental on this. He's also not afraid to bring a whole cast of supporters along. There's a feature on almost every song, and they usually shine as bright as can be. I always turn this on when I'm feeling good, maybe just getting started with some errands on the weekend or a day off. It's beautiful, it's soulful. Something that makes you really want to roll the blinds up on a Sunday morning, you feel me? Alright, number 7 is Shrines from Armand Hammer. First of all, album cover of the year. Amazing use of this wild photo. Real incident. in New York, by the way. I am happy to report that I was all over this when it came out because Billy Woods and Elucid have kind of become known as a power duo in the underground rap scene now. This is the same dark, grimy, mysterious rap we're accustomed to hearing from them. This shit sounds like the soundtrack to a dimly lit New York City hallway. It's like being on a subway car by yourself. I came back to this album frequently because there's just something so heavy and ominous about it. I still think it takes a few tracks to really start rolling, but as time has gone on, I appreciate them easing us in. Also, the feature selection is top-notch. Pink Sifu, Quelly Chris, Rap Ferreira, or Earl Sweatshirt. If you like any of those guys, then this will be right up your alley. 6 is Circles by Mac Miller. Maybe the best posthumous album ever? Is that a crazy thing to say right now? Anything John Bryan puts his wonderful little fingers on is blessed from the start. I would lay siege on cities for you, John. I would. Mac Miller's passing is a real shame. At the time, I was just starting to connect with his stuff. I really liked Swimming and was excited for what was next. It's just sad it had to come with these circumstances. Good news rings even truer in a year where every headline was tragic and nobody had anything new or exciting to share. On the flip side, it's genuinely crushing to feel like you have the pressure of pleasing everyone, especially when shit is just not okay. Like, oh, sorry my struggles are such a burden on you. Mac's estate has really been so classy at handling his legacy. I'm so sad we had to lose a voice like his. He was vulnerable about his flaws in a way we often don't see from musicians. This is the definition of a bittersweet record. Depressing, but also somehow reaffirming. At 5, Man on the Moon 3, The Chosen from Kid Cudi. Don't make fun of me or say I'm overrating this because it's a classic. It was a classic when it came out, man. I listened to it again while I was putting this together, and it still finds a way to kick ass and give me a hug. Kid Cudi, thank you for taking me on this therapeutic journey through the stars. I only came to realize how much I needed this until falling deeper into the pits of despair months later. This shit validates all of those mantras you tell yourself while navigating through life's rough patches. Musically, I think Cudi rides much of that high we got off Kids See Ghosts on this, and it's great to hear him dive into sounds like we're hearing again, something that, until this point, he hadn't done in a while. He sounds confident, empowered, and in new form, really. We get the grandeur of the previous Man on the Moon installments, but the newfound epicness of a trilogy closing out. Listening to this album is an experience. There are so many beautiful moments that make me want to break into tears of joy, proof that you can take misery and turn it into triumph. Quattro, it's Mike's Weight of the World. The world sure did have a lot of weight the year this came out, but especially so for Mike. This is a direct response to the passing of his mother. And just hearing that, you'd expect this to be incredibly solemn, but it's actually more peaceful and appreciative. Gratefulness for love in periods of extreme mental trial, you know? The sampling from Mike is once again excellent. He loops such hypnotic vocal tidbits into an assembly line of coolness. Mike has this special ability to still bring the fire in spite of how casual of a delivery he has. Maybe it's got something to do with how many insightful lyrics there are about internal struggle, or how Mike provides meaningful meditations on being. All this, and he still takes time to make sure it slaps. The production has a more vaporwave-ish flavor here. It's got me wishing I could hear a Mike verse for every Lush Cran song I ever fired up. Anyways, yeah, go sip some warm milk in the dark to this. Maybe work on that thing you've been doing while it plays. Number 3, a real riser, all the way up from the 9 spot on the original list. Purple Moonlight, Pages from Rap Ferreira. Man, this album has become such a beacon for me. I almost consider it a Riley classic by now. It's just an amalgamation of poetry, raps, beautiful quotes, and music combined. I remember driving around, doing DoorDash for the extra cash, listening to Cycles all the time, thinking about life, shedding a tear or two. type shit. There are so many quotes of lyrics from this entire LP that I still carry deep in my heart. An idea is a work of art. No starving artist, just artists starving to know. Bro, you cannot be playing with me right now. I love this whole track list. Dude even has a Sontag quote in there. I've been inventing trophies of experience, Susan, don't worry. Kenny Siegel executive produced this, so you know that production is pinpoint. So many jazzy instrumentals and weird atmospheric spacey beats. They harmonize beautifully with the spoken word. I come back to this album when I need to be inspired or reminded of why art matters, why I matter, why what I do matters. Love this shit. Makes me want to pick up the pen. At number 2, It's How I'm Feeling Now by Charli XCX. This was the original number 1 spot holder until the next one came along. Anyways, this is a beautiful sister album to the equally awesome 2019 record Charli. It's hard to imagine it now, but pop music was really stale until Miss XCX came along. Towards the back half of the 2010s, she started to make genuinely boundary-pushing and futuristic shit, and this is a culmination of that sound. What's even cooler is that it's a quarantine album, maybe the first of its kind, a great summation of the time. It looks back deeply on the disconnection/reconnection with ourselves, the isolation, and general desire for more that we were all feeling. It still holds up, if not gotten better with age, and zero of these emotions or themes dissipate with the veil of the pandemic gone. Who doesn't feel lonely or have periods of deep self-reflection? Who doesn't long to party? Also, A.G. Cook is doing some crazy stuff with the production that will always be bonkers to me. You thought Brat had some off-the-wall sounds? Just turn on Pink Diamond, man. You haven't heard shit, I promise. Great album. This is the golden age, peak Charli for me. And number 1 is... It's Jean Dawson's Pixel Bath. This was a canon event for me. I didn't even put my ears to this until like February of 2021, but I'm so happy I get to be here to talk about it right now. This is pure youthful exuberance, emotional freedom, and raw energy on display. I describe it as a 39-minute sugar rush. Gene lassos creative lightning and rides it like fucking Seabiscuit through whatever genre he feels like. It's aggressive and anxious, but at the same time, cathartic bliss. All gas, no brakes, bitch. Only good music. This album was the motivating force I needed at the time. As the pressures of adulthood were barreling towards me like a train, I could turn this on and feel like a kid again, where nothing mattered and the future was bright. Like anything was possible, and I could hold a middle finger to whatever anyone else thinks. It's rare seeing somebody wave their paintbrush around so freely, but Gene just does it like it's no big deal here. Something about Pixel Bath just gets me going like nothing else does. If I'm ever in a coma, there's a 50% chance that you could get me to wake up by just putting this on. It is the musical equivalent of a defibrillator. It has some of my favorite songs of all time. This album was made for me. Everything that I ever grew up on is right here. A rare bright spot in an incredibly bleak, sad year. All right, that's the list. I know this year absolutely sucked. At first I thought this would be kind of fun to look back on how weird of a time it all was, but the more digging I did, the more I was like, yeah, I'm glad I forgot about a lot of this. It was the cherry on top of the shit Sunday when news of MF Doom's death dropped on New Year's Eve. I shed real tears that night, man. I was done with 2020. I wanted no more of it. However, if you do look back on the nicer sides, as much as the world we knew it was ending, there were a lot of inspiring acts of humanity. The population generally seemed to be understanding of how hard things were, and common decency did sort of seem to be on the upward trend. A big old bomb kind of just dropped on everyone, and we had to deal with it together. People were at least finding silver linings in the big shakeup, myself included. I graduated college, I adopted a cute kitten, and I also even published a book, something I had always dreamed about as a kid. Sure, I was now unemployed, but still ready to take on the world when it was ready to be opened up again. But unfortunately, nothing could have prepared me for the absolute shitstorm coming my way. I had no fucking idea just how much of a year like this could ruin somebody's life. But that's for the next video. By the way, if you have anything that you feel like I need to listen to for my 2021 list, please leave a comment. That is probably one of my favorite years ever as far as music goes, and I'd love to add more to the catalog to prove that. If you recommend something that ends up making the list, I'll definitely shout you out. Cool. All right. See you guys then.